Good evening, everybody. So tonight, Journey to Slim Jim is going to be making some keto pizza. These are the ingredients, of course, that I use. That sounded really southern, these, right? So I have almond meal, I have both Italian and mozzarella cheese, as well as some Parmesan Romano in the end. I have the Rouse homemade marinara sauce. I'm going to be topping my pizza with onion, red bell pepper, olives, mushrooms, and I actually have some leftover of my cream cheese spinach, my keto spinach that I make, that I thought that might be kind of good to smear on there as well with my marinara sauce, just as like a little extra flavor in there. I'm also going to be using 1 egg. I'm going to be using Garlic Lovers Flavor God seasoning, as well as Flavor God's pizza seasoning. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of my dry ingredients and my egg and go ahead and place it in this bowl. I'm taking my cheese and my cream cheese and putting it in a microwave safe bowl, because these are what's going to be part of my fathead dough that has to get really creamy and kind of gooey and almost stringy first. So I want to make sure that I'm separating my dry and my egg versus my cheese and my cream cheese. What you're going to do is you're going to put this in the microwave for about 30-second spurts at a time until it really gets to where you can stir it. I'm using a little less than a cup, so I'd say maybe right around 3/4 of a cup of my almond meal as well for this. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. So as you guys can see, I used about a tablespoon of my Garlic Lovers and a tablespoon of my pizza flavors. I also just kind of whisk this egg just a little bit, just so that it's a little more even while I'm dropping it in and not just one giant egg as I drop it in. So I'm going to go ahead and put that right over here, just like so. So all these ingredients go together first. Again, a tablespoon of each of the spices, about 3/4 of a cup of the almond meal, and 1 egg whisked. I now have my cream cheese and mozzarella. I used about 12 ounces or a cup and a half of my mozzarella, and I used 4 ounces of cream cheese. No, you do not have to cut it into two ounce sections like I did. They just came from different blocks. A lot of people like to cut it up in even smaller sections just because they know they're going to be mixing this when they get it out. But I do it in 30-second bursts just because once you hear the cream cheese start kind of popping, you know that it's getting a little too much and you need to go ahead and take it out. And do another 30 seconds. So if you hear the cream cheese start popping a lot, that's when it's time to take it out. If you leave it on for more than 30-second spurts, it's going to start doing that quicker, and that's why I do 30-second spurts. Okay, so I just pulled this out. I did exactly 4 30-second spurts. As you see, this gets kind of like almost like stretchy and stringy. That's perfectly normal. That is how it is supposed to look. So we are good to go. We are now going to combine this with all of these ingredients and mix really well until we get a nice dough that we can spread out on our coconut sprayed pizza pan. As you guys start to mix this, if it starts to cool a little bit, because I had to go check on my daughter, and you're getting more of a glob and it's not really mixing, feel free to put it back into the microwave for more 30-second spurts until you can really get a good mixture of all this together. After you pull it out again and you get a really nice mixture, and I'm trying to do this one-handed, you should be able to literally lift this entire thing up and not have hardly anything left in the bowl. That's how you know that this dough, this fathead dough, is ready for you to then go smooth out onto a pan and bake it for your pizza crust. So all I did here was I dumped out my dough onto a round pan that I have lined with foil. I did spray, as you can see, with coconut oil. And what I'm also going to do with this, and this is my own personal preference, you do not have to do this, I'm going to be taking a little bit of olive oil and just rubbing across the top of my dough once I get it all stretched out. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of start kneading into this dough until it makes a circular shape or a rectangle shape or a heart shape or whatever it is you guys are wanting to make. When I load this into Myfitnesspal, I am going to be loading this in as each serving will be 1/4 of a piece of your pie. So I'm literally saying I'm cutting this into 4, so I'm going to make it round just so that everything's even. So if you guys are making hearts, or you split this in 2 and do 2 separates, just make sure that you're looking at the serving size and comparing it to whatever you make. Okay, so I have this completely stretched out now. As you can see, my edges, they're not super thin, they're not super thick. I tried to make it even all the way around. I then am taking a tablespoon of olive oil, and I'm just going to kind of drizzle it across the entire top of this. And then I'm going to take my fingers and rub it in, just because I like for my crust to have a little bit of that olive oily taste, and I also feel like this makes it a little bit crisper. So once I do that, I'm going to be popping this in the oven at about 375 for anywhere between 12 to 15 minutes. After that, I will take it out and start putting my toppings on. One other thing that I do on mine, just because I'm a salt and pepper fiend, as you can see, it sits right here. I love salt and pepper on things, so I went ahead and salt and peppered my entire dough before I put it in the oven. And here we go. We're going to go ahead and put this on the middle row down there. And sorry, I'm just throwing things because I'm trying to do it one-handed and film. And we are at 375. And I am going to do the kitchen timer for 12 minutes because I want to check it at 12 minutes, but it will likely stay in for about 15 minutes. So while the pizza cooks, you want to go ahead and get all of your toppings that you're going to use ready. Like I said, this was some keto spinach that I used. It is literally just spinach sauteed with heavy cream and cream cheese with a little bit of Parmesan in it. I'm going to use some black olives. I'm going to do some mushrooms, a little bit of pepper, a little bit of onion, and I actually just found my bacon in the fridge, so I'm going to put some bacon on top of mine as well. But what I'll do for you guys, just because I know everybody's not going to do these same toppings as I am, I will load this into Myfitnesspal as a keto cheese pizza, parentheses journey to Slim Jim, and then that way you guys can add that to yours as just a cheese pizza. What it will be, it'll be the crust that we just made. It will be 1 cup of the marinara sauce, and then probably the same, a cup of a mozzarella cheese, and then that will be all that will be loaded into is Myfitnesspal. Then you guys can add your toppings as you will. Alright, so now it's just a waiting game. So I actually did cook mine for the full 15 minutes. As you're pulling it out, you're going to see that it's still not, it doesn't look like it's completely all the way cooked. This side looks a little crispier than that side, and that's perfectly fine. What we're going to do is we're going to start putting our toppings on, because we're going to put this back in the oven once our toppings are on. So you don't want it to be so crispy and burnt that once you put it back in, it just gets more burnt. So I'm going to use about a cup of the marinara sauce. I'm also going to be using a cup of the low moisture mozzarella. That is how I will have this logged into Myfitnesspal. Everything else that I add on top of that, I'm also going to be adding my spinach and my other toppings. I will log those separately just so that this is easier for other people to log into their food tracker. Okay, so I've now put the cream spinach as well as my tomato sauce all over the pizza. I'm going to now add my cup of mozzarella, and I just kind of sprinkle it all the way across like this. You guys use whatever kind of cheese you like, is best for your diet, that type thing. This is a low moisture mozzarella. A lot of ketoers like to use a fuller fat cheese. A lot of ketoers also like to shred their own cheese for the tops of pizza like this. I'm also going to be adding an Italian style, another cup of Italian style to the top of mine, as well as sprinkling the top once I put the layers on with the Parmesan. Okay, so as you can see, my pizza is loaded down with toppings. You guys really just need to make sure that it fits whatever macros you guys have for the day. I knew that I was making this tonight, so I had a fairly small lunch and I only had a keto coffee for breakfast. So I'm really excited for this pizza. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put 1 more cup of cheese over top of my toppings, and then I'm going to put it back in the oven, still at 375, for anywhere between probably 3 to 7 minutes. It really just depends on how well your oven cooks, but you're looking for the edges to get a little crispier, and you're looking for all the cheese and the toppings to look like they've been fully cooked and are melted. I also put some bacon on top of mine, so I'm looking for the bacon to get a little extra crispy. So let's go. So I just pulled her out. This is what she's looking like. You will see a little bit of the oil from the cheese coming through on top. That's perfectly okay. Last thing I like to do is just sprinkle some of the fresh herbs from my oregano and basil from out back. I think that just gives it a little bit of extra flavor. And I will also lightly sprinkle with the Parmigiano. I say Parmigiano, it's Parmesan Romano. So I'm going to lightly sprinkle like this just because my husband really likes this. And now I'm going to cut this into 4ths and we're going to eat it. And it's going to be delicious, and Eileen's ready to eat, as you can see. Alright, so you guys feel free to follow me on Journey to Slim Jim on Instagram, and also subscribe to this YouTube for any other recipes that I do in the future. Thanks!